Elna is proud to present a new and innovative series of overlocks. The Elna Lock Pro 4DE is an electronic machine with differential feed for perfect fabric control. The Elna Lock Pro 4 and Pro 5 DC give you differential feed plus Elna's exclusive instructional computer to make sewing a breeze with up to 12 special programs that you can adapt yourself. Use the instructional computer and your Elna Lock workbook to learn about all your machine can do. Sewing is easy when you have the most sewing space in any serger made for the home, and Elna exclusive. All adjustment dials and levers are located on the front of the machine. Elna's design makes threading simpler than ever. Each thread is color-coded. Refer to the threading chart on the front panel of your machine and follow the colored tension dials and thread guides. Elna Lock is versatile. Sew with 2, 3, 4, or even 5 threads on the Pro 5 model. Let's review some of the special features of your Elna Lock before we thread the machine. Refer to your owner's manual for more information. Your Elna Lock has a built-in carrying grip, so it's easy to move. The telescoping thread guide antenna pulls out easily when you're ready to sew. The stitch length and differential feed levers are here on the front of the machine, so they're easy to use. With the Elna Lock computer, you can select from up to 12 different stitch choices. Select at a touch, and the computer will show you tension, stitch length, differential feed, needle position information, and which foot to use. Control your speed on your DC model with the electronic speed reducer here. Sew as fast or as slow as you wish. All models have a sensor in the motor to ensure strong needle penetration, even at slow speeds. Put your screwdrivers away. Elna Lock has snap-on presser feet and needle plate. Raise the presser foot here. Push the lever forward and the foot will drop off. Pull the handle of the presser bar towards you for extra lift and remove the foot to the left. We'll leave the foot off so that we can see more clearly as we remove the needle plate. Open the side of the machine. Press down on this lever and the needle plate pops up. The plate snaps back on easily. Notice Elna's patented micro-etched feed dogs. This exclusive surface gives you stable, positive feeding for all fabrics. Your Elna Lock trims with 2 cutting blades as it sews. The larger, movable cutting blade here can be turned down and out of the way if you do not want to trim your sewing. Push this knob to turn the blade down and back up. For stable sewing of extra heavy fabric, lock the movable blade holder here. Use the Allen screwdriver that comes with your machine and turn the screw clockwise to tighten. Be sure to loosen the screw for normal sewing. The stationary cutting blade is easy to see here. This blade does not move while sewing, but it can be adjusted slightly to the right or left to control the width of the fabric that is cut. Adjust it here. In general, the stationary blade should be flush with the edge of the needle plate. Open this side door to change your light bulb. The high-low pressure control is also located in this compartment. High pressure is recommended for most fabrics and is preset at the factory. However, for a very stretchy or lofty fabric like sweater knit, low pressure will give you a perfect seam. Push the lever to the right and it will snap into the low pressure position. Push the lever back to return to regular sewing. Your Elna Lock Pro 5 can sew a chain stitch anywhere on your fabric with its unique upper looper disengagement system. It's easy. Open the front panel and turn the flywheel until needles are in the lowest position. Push this lever and the upper looper drops out of the way. Disengage the movable cutter. Now, attach your Elna extension table. Move the stationary blade to the left and position the table. Move the blade to the right to secure the extension. No other overlock can give you this much sewing room. Remove the table to return to normal serging. Push the lever to the right to lift the upper looper. As you turn the flywheel, the looper will snap into place. Remember to return the movable cutter to working position. Let's look at the accessories that come with your Elna lock before we thread the machine. These two transparent discs prevent decorative threads from slipping below the spool pin. These spool caps enable you to sew with regular spools. Place them on top of the spool, like this. This two-thread adapter is used for two-thread techniques. In your accessory box, you also get tweezers to help in threading, a bottle of oil, a cleaning brush, and an Allen screwdriver. You have an extra cutting blade and a spanner to install it as well. A package of ELX 705 system needles are included in your box. Household sewing machine needles can be used, but these needles are specially designed with a groove in front and in back for a tighter stitch. All Elna locks come with a dust cover for those rare moments when you put your machine away. Let's get ready to sew. Make sure that the cord and foot control are plugged in. Let's thread your machine for a basic 3-thread overlock stitch. Elna gives you a color-coded threading chart inside the front door panel of your machine. We'll thread the upper looper first. Place a spool on the center spool pin and thread the center hole of the antenna. Follow the yellow guides. It's simple. Finally, thread the eye of the upper looper. Pass the thread to the left under the presser foot. Make sure the thread is not caught in front of the lower looper. Thread the lower looper using the spool and antenna hole to the right of the upper looper cone. Follow the green threading guides. Elna makes threading the lower looper especially easy with a movable guide. Move the lever down to see the hook. Thread and slide back. Thread the eye of the lower looper and draw the thread to the left under the presser foot. Check your chart to make sure you did not miss any guides. Now we'll thread the overlock needle, color-coded red. First, raise the needle bar to its highest position. Use the spool pin and the antenna hole to the left of the upper looper cone. Pass the thread through the clip. Use the tension release to easily slip the thread between the tension discs. Pass the thread through the groove of the take-up lever cover and the two remaining guides. Thread the needle and pass the thread under the presser foot. Lower the presser foot. Close the front panel and turn the machine on. Let's consult the display screen for a 3-thread setting. We'll advance the program by pushing the keypad here. The computer advances with each beep until you see 3-thread information displayed. Now simply adjust the machine to your display screen information. Stitch length, 2.5. Differential feed, 1. Thread tension for overlock needle, 4. For upper looper, 2. And for lower looper, 2. The computer tells you to use the right needle only in the R2 position and to engage the stitch width lever. On the Pro 5, set the foot lever to B. The display screen also tells you that the upper looper should be up and the movable cutter should be in working position. We're ready to sew. Turn the flywheel by hand to start forming your stitch before you step on the foot control. To lock your stitch, make a thread tail several inches long. Bring it to the front and catch it under this hook. As you sew, the machine automatically trims and stitches over your thread ends. With your computer display screen and Elna Lock, you'll get a perfect stitch. The 3-thread overlock makes an excellent professional finish for a single layer of wool or loosely woven linen. Use it to prevent raveling when you pre-wash fabrics with raw edges. The 3-thread stitch is also perfect for delicate lingerie. With Elna Lock, you can make a sweatshirt in 25 minutes. Thick and lofty fabrics require a wider stitch. Let's consult the display screen for a 3-thread wide setting. It tells us to change the stitch length to 3 and to change the needle to the R1 position for the Pro 5 DC. For the Pro 4 DC, put the needle in the left or blue position with tension at 4. It's easy to apply ribbing. Fold in half, align raw edges, and sew. The 3-thread overlock gives the most stretch, perfect for applying ribbing. You can also create beautiful wide decorative edges with your Elna Lock 3-thread by using special threads like pearl cotton or ribbon thread in the upper looper. Remove the upper looper thread cone and replace it with ribbon thread. Use spool net on the lower third of your spool for smooth thread flow. Thread the upper looper exactly as you did before, but bypass the clip located here. This technique makes a quick decorative finish for placemats, blankets, or jackets. You can do even more with the 3-thread overlock. Let's do a beautiful 3-thread flat lock seam. First, we'll advance the computer to the 3-thread flat lock. It tells you to adjust the stitch length to 2, to decrease the needle to 0.5, to adjust the upper looper tensions to 1.5, and to increase the lower looper tension to 8. The foot lever, stitch width lever, and needle position are the same. Look, the computer tells us with a light to put the movable blade in a non-cutting position. Do you remember how to do this? Fold the fabric with wrong sides together. We're sewing this seam on the fold of the fabric without cutting, so we'll align it with the edge of the needle plate. Press the fabric and the seam will lie flat. Let's do a narrow 3-thread hem. Do you remember how to consult your computer? The display screen tells you to shorten the stitch length to 1 and change the tensions. Needle tension to 3.5, upper looper to 4, and lower looper to 3. It also tells you that the movable blade should be in the cutting position and to disengage the stitch width lever. Disengage the stitch width lever by putting your needle in the lowest position and pulling the lever towards you and out of the way. For the Pro 4, move the needle to the right position. Adjust the stationary blade so that it is flush with the plate edge. Sew, and make a beautiful edge or seam finish for ruffles. Let's do a 3-thread rolled hem. Advance the computer. It tells you only to change the needle tension to 4, the upper looper to 1.5, and the lower looper to 7. Have you seen the pretty ruffled edges on little girls' t-shirts? It's called a lettuce edge, and it's very easy to copy. Set your machine to do a rolled hem, but adjust the differential feed to 0.5. Sew. And the change in feed dog movement will produce a lettuce edge. Use this stretchy yarn-like thread called woolly nylon to get a smoothly covered decorative edge. Look, our stitch is not balanced. Our stitch length is correct, but we need to adjust our tension settings for this thread. We'll show you how to reprogram your computer for special threads. Reprogramming your computer is easy. Push the program key here. The stitch length number flashes. Our stitch length is correct, so we'll advance the computer by pressing the Advanced Sewing Sequence key here. The stitch length has stopped flashing. Now the differential feed number is flashing. We do not want to change the differential feed, so we'll advance again. The needle tension is also correct, so we'll press the key again. Now we're ready to change the upper looper tension. Push the plus-minus keypad until the setting that you want appears. We'll select 0.5. Push the Advanced Sewing Sequence key to program your selection and to move to the next setting. The lower looper setting is now flashing. Change it to 8 with the plus-minus key. There are no other changes, so push the program key to exit. Sew with woolly nylon now. Look, it's perfect. Let's turn our Elna Lock off and on again. Look, the computer shows the last technique you selected. Your Elna Lock will hold your stitch setting for up to 10 days and then return automatically to the preset factory settings. If you'd like to return to the factory setting before then, press the 3 programming keys simultaneously while turning on the machine. Let's advance the computer to sew a 4-thread mock safety stitch. It tells us to thread the blue tension guides in addition to the 3 threads. Check your color-coded threading chart on the inside panel for assistance. Remember to use the tension release lever when threading the needle tension discs. Consult your display screen and adjust the blue needle tension to 4, the red needle tension to 3, the upper looper to 2, and the lower looper to 2. Change your stitch length to 2.5. The computer also tells you to engage the stitch width lever. The Pro 5 computer indicates 2 needles in the right, or R1 and R2 positions. Add the second right needle here, using the Allen screwdriver. The Pro 4 computer shows a single needle in the left and in the right position. Add the second needle using your Allen screwdriver. Thread each needle. The red thread guide is to the right, and the blue thread guide is to the left. Pass the threads under the presser foot. As you sew, you'll see an extra row of stitching in the center. This makes an extra strong finish for sweater knits and hand-woven fabrics. Use this stitch and sew with woolly nylon in the loopers for extra stretch. The mock safety stitch is perfect for assembling a sweater knit and for applying ribbing. Fold the ribbing in half, wrong sides together. Line up with the edge of the sweater body and sew. Look what happened. The seam is very wavy. Let's consult the display screen for stretch knits. It tells you to adjust the differential feed to 1.5. This will change the feed dog movement to prevent the fabric from stretching out of shape. The best finish for fine fabrics like silk is a 2-thread overcast stitch. The display screen tells you to change the stitch length to 2, the differential feed to 1, set the needle tension to 0.5, and the lower looper tension to 5. Use the R2 needle for the Pro 5 and engage the stitch width lever. The red light indicates that the cutter should be in a working position. For the Pro 5 only, an indicator light shows that the upper looper should be up with the 2-thread adapter in place. Use your color-coded threading chart to check your threading. Your 2-thread adapter is in your accessory box. Snap it on the upper looper. The adapter allows the lower looper thread to be caught by the needle thread. The 2-thread overcast uses less thread and gives you a finer edge for silk or other delicate fabrics. To sew a wide 2-thread flat lock with the same setting, move the needle to the R1 position on the Pro 5, and on the Pro 4, use the left needle only. Fold your fabric with wrong sides together and sew. Open and press the seam to flatten the stitch. You can also sew a delicate 2-thread rolled hem. The display screen tells you to change the stitch length to 1, the needle tension to 4, and the looper tension to 4. Disengage the stitch width lever for an instant rolled hem. The 2-thread stitch gives you the finest rolled hem. Let's sew with all 5 threads on your Elna Lock Pro 5. Advance the display screen to the 5-thread double safety stitch. We'll set the stitch length at 3, the chain needle at 4, the overlock needle at 4, the upper looper at 2, and the lower looper at 2. Notice that there is an N showing for the brown color-coded tension guide for the chain looper. This tension is set at the factory and needs no adjustment. Notice that the computer tells you to use a needle in the L or left and R1 positions. Insert the needle before turning the foot lever to A and engaging the stitch width lever. Now check your threading guide and thread for a 3-thread overlock as before. We'll thread the chain looper using the right-hand spool pin and antenna hole. Pass the thread through this hook and groove. Don't miss this guide. Thread between the tension discs and the rest of the brown color-coded guides. Now thread the looper. It's easiest if the looper is all the way to the right. A small spring holds the thread at the right for easy threading. Now thread the eye at the tip of the chain looper. Allow about 2 inches of thread to hang down. Thread the chain needle. Bring needles to highest position. Pass the thread from right to left through the top of the slot in the take-up lever cover, behind the check spring, and into the opening of the thread take-up lever, and then through the eye of the needle. We'll sew a sample, making sure that the chain needle is penetrating the fabric as it starts to sew. Turn the flywheel to start the stitch, and sew. Once a chain has been formed, there is no need to have fabric so far under the foot. This 9mm seam, consisting of a 2-thread chain stitch and 3-thread overlock stitch, is the widest and most secure seam you can sew. It's perfect for wovens like cotton sheeting, twill, corduroy, or denim. Use the 5-thread stitch on heavy fabrics like polar fleece. Remember to lock the movable blade here with your Allen screwdriver. Look at this clean seam finish. Don't forget to unlock the blade when you're finished. You can easily sew with the chain stitch alone. Cut and remove the upper and lower looper threads. Cut the overlock needle thread and remove the needle. The display screen also tells us to disengage the movable cutter and the upper looper. Don't forget to lower the needle when you do this. Snap the extension table into place. You remember how to do this. We'll sew an open seam using the markings on the extension table. The chain stitch also makes a perfect basting stitch. Pull it out from the end of the seam with the chain looper thread. You can lock the stitch by cutting into the loop and pulling on the needle thread. This chain stitch is used in ready-to-wear to assemble sweater knits because it has more flexibility than the straight stitch of a sewing machine. Use woolly nylon for even more stretch. Sew with the right side of the fabric down and use decorative thread in the chain looper for an accent on clothing. Your Elna Lock sews beautiful decorative top stitching with the chain stitch. Your Elna Lock does all kinds of sewing, and it's so easy to use. There are many accessories available to help you do even more with your Elna Lock. Use your accessories to make beautiful samples like you've seen in this video.